Hello again, accounting scholars. We meet at such an opportune time. Well, as you probably remember, we talked about the revenue process in our last discussion. Today, we're going to talk and start with the expenditure process. Revenue is all about selling and getting your customers to pay you. Expenditures are all about spending money to get sales. So we're going to start off here again on what are the goals of the expenditure process. And there are three of them. First of all, the first goal is to receive the highest quality goods and services at the lowest cost when needed. Okay, by that I mean if you're making iPhones, as this example shows, uh, there are components required to make the iPhone. There's the case, there's the display screen, there's the processors. So your goal is to get the highest quality case, get the highest quality processors, get the highest quality screens. When you need those in terms of manufacturing those iPhones. The second thing, the second goal, just as if you want to get paid in a timely manner, in terms of your receivables, you also want to pay people in a timely manner. So if a vendor is supplying you iPhone screens, you don't want to leave that vendor hanging. You want to pay him or her in a reasonable amount of time, so that that company will continue to provide you with great service. And then the third goal is developing good relationships with those suppliers. Although you're buying something from somebody, uh, you want to develop a relationship so that they want to do business with you. If they're a really good supplier, there's probably lots of companies that want to do business with them. So you want to develop a good relationship with that supplier, so you're at the top of their particular list. Uh, the the next particular area that we're going to go into is the four primary activities of the expenditure process. Okay, expenditures again is spending money to get sales. So what are the four primary activities in this particular process? Uh, the first is determining the needs for goods and services. Uh, the company must have a person inside who's authorized to order goods. If you can imagine, if anybody in a company could order stuff, it'd be a little crazy. So you have to determine the need, and then you have to identify a person to actually order the stuff. This is usually called the purchasing department. Okay, the second one is select suppliers of goods and services. Um, and that it has to do with where are you going to buy this stuff? And if you're Apple in the other example, you're probably buying stuff from suppliers all over the world. You're buying stuff from China, you're buying stuff from South America, you're buying stuff from Europe. Uh, that's the selection process of determining what suppliers you're gonna use and where you're gonna buy it. The third activity is the actual receiving of the goods. You can imagine you've ordered from all these suppliers from around the world. Uh, you've got to have a central point to receive all those particular goods, and in order to maintain your quality, you're going to inspect those goods when they come in. You want to put them in a secure place so that they can't be pilfered. You can imagine if you're buying processors for an iPhone, those processors probably cost $200 or $300 a piece, and so you wouldn't want to necessarily leave those laying around. And in addition to this, there is a process where if you get defective merchandise, you're going to want to return it and send it back. And there's also the process of when you may ask for a reduction in purchase price because the goods aren't as good as you expected. So if, let's say, you ordered screens for an iPhone and some of those were damaged, you go back to the company and say, hey, you remember that shipment of 1,000 screens? About 100 of those were really bad. We couldn't use them. So you're asking for a purchase allowance. So that's number 3 in the of activities in the reception of goods. And then last but not least, it's actually payment of the goods. You get the goods, you've inspected them, you've stored them, you've decided which are good, which are not so good. Then you actually have to pay them. And this is on the balance sheet. This is called accounts payable. You want to make sure that you're only paying for the stuff that you ordered and received. If somebody short shipped you, you certainly don't want to pay them as if they shipped you the full amount. And in addition, you're only going to pay for purchases in time to receive any available discounts. So if a company says, if you pay me within 10 days, I'll give you 10% off, you want to take advantage of that. So those are the 4 primary expenditure processes. First, again, is determine the needs for goods and services. Second is selecting the suppliers that you're going to order goods from or services. Third is actually the reception of the goods, storing them in secure areas and determining whether you need to return or take purchase allowances. And fourth is the payment of goods. Okay, so we're going to talk about a sub-segment again, a sub-process here, and that's called the conversion process. Now, the conversion process is all about making stuff. Your goal is, as shown in this particular picture of a manufacturing operation. Actually, this is Avon, the cosmetics company. This particular person is putting together an Avon product. You want to manufacture products at as high quality as you possibly can. As consumers of goods of companies, last thing we want to do is buy a product and have it break. The second thing in terms of goals of the conversion process is you want to utilize your labor, and as shown here, someone on an assembly line in a manufacturing plant for Avon, they're considered labor, right? And other manufacturing resources in an efficient and effective manner. So you can see this particular person is working on an assembly line with a very complicated machine. So you're going to want to make sure that machine is fully utilized and that particular operator of that machine is trained and capable to use it efficiently. Okay, so just like we had primary activities in the other processes, in the conversion process there are 4 primary activities. The 4 primary activities, as shown on this particular graphic, the first one is scheduling. The company has to decide what products and at what quantities they should be manufacturing stuff. When Apple came out with the new iPhone, they had to determine, how many of these are we going to sell, and therefore what quantities do we need to manufacture to meet that particular demand. Okay, so that's scheduled production. Second is obtaining direct materials. So here again is what is the process that a company goes through to get the materials to make a product. These are called direct materials. The the manufacturing operation has to requisition. Basically requisition is a word meaning ask for products from a secure storage location by someone who's authorized to do that. So, when shipping and receiving got those Apple screens, those were locked up because they're very expensive. So there's a process of someone in the manufacturing floor actually requisitioning or asking the person that maintains those storage facilities to, hey, send those screens down to the line. We're going to make an iPhone. Then the third primary activity is using labor and other manufacturing resources to make products. So once the materials come to the assembly line, labor has to be there, the machines have to be there, there has to be power to take those materials and convert those into finished products. So you can imagine now, manufacturing a iPhone is probably a reasonably complicated process. Again, you have screens, you have cases, you have processors, you have software. All those things have to come together at once in order to manufacture that particular product. Now, there's a term that you probably want to become familiar with in the manufacturing process, and that's called manufacturing overhead. Manufacturing overhead is all the people and stuff involved in managing the manufacturing process to make it happen. Those aren't the people that are actually on the line. Those are the people that are kind of the orchestrators of, or the quarterbacks, if you will, of all the processes involved in getting the manufacturing or process up and running. These are called indirect manufacturing resources. Okay, and lastly is once you've finished making the product, here again, you've got to store those in a secure area until they are ready to be shipped. And again, companies want to minimize the time that finished goods are actually stored in their buildings, because they want to get those out to the customers as fast as they possibly can so they can get paid. They don't want money. They don't want inventory sitting around because it could be damaged. It could become obsolete. They want to make it and get it out as quickly as possible. This is called JIT, or just-in-time manufacturing. So again, to summarize here, guys, the primary activities of the conversion process are 1, scheduling production, 2, obtaining direct materials, 3, using labor and other manufacturing resources, and 4, storing the finished goods. All right, guys, have a great night. I'll be talking to you tomorrow.